At authorsbroadcast.com, we produce and display book video trailers, short 1 or 2 minute videos that help prospective readers learn more about a specific new book. In this episode of Authors Showcase, we're going to take a look at a number of book trailers and meet a few authors we encountered at various events. Have a paper and pencil handy to jot down the title of any books that may look interesting to you. And be sure to visit authorsbroadcast.com to learn about the books shown here and more.
Hi, my name is Lynn Bowdish, and I'm the author of Dateline Atlantis, and it's a contemporary fantasy, and I wrote it to be just a fun adventure. I had been writing a lot of spiritual things, which were getting a little heavy going, so I thought I'd do something that was a lot lighter for the readers. It's about a journalist who goes diving and finds buildings under the sea, which she thinks might be part of Atlantis. She goes back to her newspaper, and her editor, who has dreams of a Pulitzer Prize, sends her out to get that story. And so she does, and meanwhile, she has a romance. She finds a mystery that hasn't been solved. There's a murder that happens, and there are bad guys all along the way who don't want her to find the existence of Atlantis. And you just have to read it to find out what happens.
Here is The Scare. It's 8 o'clock on
Hi, my name's Lawrence Wheel, and my novel is Incarnate. This is the story of Lara Joyner. This is literary fiction, and Lara Joyner suffers from a particularly pernicious delusion in that she believes her son is Christ incarnate. Now, he's not. This is not a religious book. It's a psychological drama. This story follows Lara as she takes her 2 sons, Dale, the older one at 7, whom she believes to be the second coming of Christ, and the younger one, Lewis, who is 5, off to perform miracles and to assume the throne of God. Now, he cannot perform miracles. He's not Christ incarnate, but he wants to protect his little brother, and so he goes through the motions and he tries to do the things that will placate his mother while at the same time keep himself and his brother safe. We also get the point of view of the father, who is looking desperately for his sons and trying to keep them safe. Overall, this is the story of how one woman's schizophrenia can turn everything upside down in a family. It's also the story of how faith can overcome reason.
Millions of dollars are missing. Several partners are dead, and one man is determined to solve the mystery and save his company. But who can he trust? The world of high finance is a jungle where the naive will be eaten alive. The Tipping Point is a story of greed, complicity, fraud, then ultimately resurrection and restoration. From the slopes of a luxury ski resort to corporate boardrooms, the story turns even more deadly in a steamy Caribbean hotel suite, sending everyone involved scrambling for a safe haven. A culture of corporate cannibals has the remaining partners running for their lives, while the SEC and FBI try to piece together the facts of a conspiracy far bigger than anyone could have imagined. Full of action, adventure, romance, and intrigue. Assassination, suicide, and financial ruin are the tipping point.
Keating heard a popping sound over the noise of the radio and instantly felt the car swerve left across the double yellow lines. The Porsche began to fishtail. Black ice caught the car when the left front tire had blown. He fought to keep control, but he had been hitting 70 and was losing the fight. He overcorrected, heading for the guardrail. Jesus, please don't let this happen. With the left tire shredded, he was running on the rim and wasn't able to steer back left away from the precipice. He knew better than to hit the brakes and panic. He was on the downside of the hill and was picking up speed, or so it seemed. He chanced the brakes a light touch, just to keep the nose straight, but the road made a sharp turn left. He crashed through the rail. His vehicle was airborne. The car was free-falling through a mile of frigid air.
Author Walter Danley draws on his observations as a commercial real estate investor, plus a vivid imagination to craft the characters and environment you will experience in The Tipping Point. Order your copy today at Amazon.com.
So what we do is we produce shirts featuring fictional businesses from obscure novels, Bruce Springsteen songs, Shakespeare plays, ancient mythology, and classic American literature. And we produce them to raise money for the National Association to Protect Children. What Protect does is they pass laws and create programs that protect children from physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. So we work with all of the authors and Bruce Springsteen. We tried to work with William Shakespeare. He's not returning our phone calls. And they all signed off on this. They don't keep a penny. We don't keep a penny. All that money goes to Protect. So what we protect children from is physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, most of which takes place in the home. Everybody thinks, when they think of child abuse, they think of stranger danger. But the truth is that's less than 5% of actual child abuse. Most of it is taking place within the circle of trust. So we help to pass legislation that protects kids from that kind of abuse, and we develop programs that help to rescue kids who are being abused that way. So anybody who wants to know more about Protect, or anybody who wants to purchase one of the t-shirts, can go to protect.org.
My name is Christine Todd, and I'm an author living in Chicago. It's a wonderful city, and I'm originally from England, but I've lived here a number of years. I've written 2 books. One is a novel that takes place in Chicago, and its name is Pins. And the other is a book of short stories that just came out last week. I've done a little bit of magazine writing and newspaper writing, but I must say I prefer to turn out books when I can. It takes a while, but I write women's fiction. I don't like to call it that though. I like to call it general fiction because we really don't have men's fiction. So I think it's just general fiction, and I have had both men and women say that they've enjoyed my novel. My first book, Pins, was originally published in England because that's where I was living at the time. It does take place in Chicago, the story, and that's because I had lived here for a number of years. I used to be in advertising, so my protagonist is someone who knows all about advertising. It makes life easier when it comes to research. And it does talk about a woman whose life goes a little bit off the rails when she has trusted someone she ought not to have trusted. And it's her way out of that situation that the novel addresses. And sometimes I'm told it's very funny, and sometimes it's a bit sad, but as all good novels, it usually works out pretty well in the end anyway. My next book of Pins came out in New York because we had moved to New York and we were going to relaunch here. So we had a new cover made, and that was launched last year, and it's been doing quite well. This is my new book, Tornado Days, and it's only been out about a week. And it's a set of short stories with a little bit of a similar theme in regard to decision making, and when we make choices that sometimes can take our life off in a different direction than we planned. And sometimes that's a funny direction, and sometimes it's not so funny. And we have to see how all of our decisions work out in the end. And so this is a collection that has that general theme running through it. It contains 3 stories that were published in publications in the UK. But otherwise it's all new work. One of the stories in here is called Tornado Days, and it tells the story of a young couple who actually lose a child. And it is what happens after that. 2 very, very nice people who, because one thing was said when the child was found not breathing, it was the thing that changed their lives more than anything else. One thing that was said that would have been better off left unsaid. And this is a story that I'm told touches a lot of people. And it was really the thing that launched this book, was that idea, behind the idea that your whole world can be changed by things that happen to you, like tornadoes that just come in and upset your whole life, sometimes in a fun way and sometimes in a tragic way. And so that's what this book is about. Can I get a tip?
Writers always know how to express themselves.
Oh, sometimes I express other people.
Rage runs red in the small Iowa town of Cedar Falls, where beautiful high school senior Jenny San Giovanni has an ex-boyfriend with a bad temper. Classmate Tad McGreevy possesses a special gift. He sees auras around others that tell him whether they are good or evil. While asleep, Tad suffers vivid and violent nightmares where he relives the crimes of the evildoers. When best buddy Stevie Scranton goes missing, Tad vows to do everything he can to find him. Now he must learn to control his paranormal powers to save the ones he loves. Enlisting the help of a retired policeman and a group of volunteers, this ragtag team of detectives discovers a monstrous evil more sinister than anyone could imagine. Red is for Rage is the second novel in the award-winning Color of Evil series by Connie Corcoran Wilson. William F. Nolan says of Wilson, "She's good, damn good." Red is for Rage by Connie Corcoran Wilson is available online and at your favorite bookseller.
The following books are available at Amazon.com or ask your local bookseller. The Coach House by Florence Osmond. No Less in Blood by D.M. Perrone. Gotta Let It Go by Delia Lawrence. Going Home, Book 1, Alien Encounters series. Getting Rich and Living Wealthy by Dane Marks. Grow Big, 60-plus ideas for party plan profits. In My Own Words, a do-it-yourself autobiography by Sheila Raptis. No Mystery Anymore, a no-frills guide to mystery shopping. Getting to Dry, how to help your child overcome bedwetting by Dr. Max Mizels. Order one of these great books today at Amazon.com or ask your local bookseller.
I'm Sharon Woodhouse, publisher of Lake Claremont Press. We've been publishing nonfiction books about Chicago and Chicago history for 19 years. This is our 18th year at the Printers Row Book Fair. And we have these booths here. We have a couple of our new authors signing their titles. And I'll show you some of the stuff we do. We have a book for third graders on Chicago history written by a Chicago public school teacher, Renee Kresmer. She's signing here today. That's one of our new books. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have a mature title, Gold Coast Madam, The Secret Life of Rose Laws. Rose Laws is also signing her book here today. And then we just have some classic guidebooks. We like to do books that teach history while encouraging people to get out into the world. So things like Historic Bars of Chicago, The Beat Cop's Guide to Chicago Eats, Oldest Chicago, which is one of my favorites, The Oldest Thing in different categories, Oldest Italian Restaurant, Oldest Movie Parlor, Oldest Theater, Oldest Ice Cream Shop. And then we have histories on very specific topics. So we have Chicago's Midway Airport, the history of zoning in Chicago. A great one from 2000, Chicago River, a natural and unnatural history. All sorts of things like this. What else would you like to know? Our books are available at local bookstores and gift shops pretty widely. You can go to our website, lakeclaremont.com, or amazon.com, of course.
Hi, I'm Renee Kresmer. This is my book, Just Add Water, The Making of the City of Chicago, and I wrote this for my third grade students at Chicago Public Schools so that they could solve investigations and make social studies as interesting as science. It's all about the history of the making of Chicago, everything that made the city of Chicago. Inside you'll see investigation questions, and students analyze primary sources like photographs or maps and try to answer the question, and then they read the text to see if they were right, and they collect stars and see how many stars they get at the end of the book. You can find it at Lake Claremont Press, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, my trunk of my car.
Book I wrote, and it's all about my life as the Gold Coast Madam in Chicago, and it's only been out since December, and you'll have fun reading it, and you can figure out who some of the people are. You can find the book at Barnes & Nobles, on Amazon.com, and lots of other bookstores. The bookstore at 23 East Illinois has it right up front.
An aged widower with an acute awareness of his own mental decline is being moved across country at his daughter's insistence. Instead of flying, he chooses to join his grandson on a 3,000-mile road trip that includes daily readings to an urn of ashes, and for the two travelers becomes a spiritual journey of self-discovery and harsh realities. A must-read roller coaster of emotions, a cathartic tale of spiritual alignment and personal growth. Reading to Jane is an amazing story of loss and grief and the recovery that accompanies it. A fast read that is thought-provoking, funny, heartwarming, and uncannily familiar. The reader becomes part of the family, going along for a physical and symbolic journey with unlikely companions, each with their own tragic past. En route at campgrounds and rest stops, the cross-country travelers meet several colorful characters and eventually befriend a woman who is coping with an unspeakable tragedy that causes her to question her most deeply held beliefs. Her growing anger ultimately forces her to confront the demons of her past. Reading to Jane combines the reality of aging, the brashness of youth, the stigma of societal outcasts, and the turmoil of loss into an intricately woven three-part adventure. Will Mary be consumed by her rage, or will she find a way out of the darkness? Mary and her unlikely companions come together in an unforgettable conclusion that contains all the surprises, humor, and warmth that author Carol Marshall is known for. You can read this novel simply for the pleasure of its wonderful story and unique collection of bizarre yet relatable characters. But each of the characters in Reading to Jane has something to teach us. This book is a journey to a meaningful existence and can point you in the direction of a more joyful and harmonious way to live. You won't want to miss Reading to Jane, available at Amazon.com.
Hi, I'm Patricia Rose Upsack of Synchronicity Publishing, and these are my books. We have Steve, which is a healing process book for grieving families. And we have Happy Teachers, Happy Students, The Power of Intention for teachers. It's for either people who are becoming teachers or people who are already teachers that would like some new insights and perspectives. Then we have Reiki, Reiki A Way of Life. We have it in Spanish. We have it in the audio book, and we have it in the paperback book. And it's for people who have either are interested in Reiki or who have taken a Reiki class and they'd like some more information. And then over here we have Synchronicity Signs and Symbols, and it's in audiobook and in the paperback book. And it's stories of people who are relatively famous who have said that meaningful coincidences or synchronicities have changed their lives because they started to follow that path, and they really put some energy into listening to the whispers of the universe, basically. When things would start to happen a couple of times, instead of just brushing it off as coincidence, they said this might mean something. And so the book is really, it's good. And then it has a companion book down there with a synchronistic journey that's a journal that goes with the book. And then we have the audiobook of Synchronicity, Signs and Symbols. And then we have one of my favorites, which is The Mystery of Devil's Gulch, and it's a metaphysical mystery for kids above the age of 8. But that means it also can be for people. I have people that have written to me that are 70 that love this book because it's got shape-shifting and time travel and all kinds of really interesting things.
My name is Daniel Andrew Boyd, and I work for this organization called Here'sTheStory.org, and we promote storytelling throughout the city in various and sundry ways. Some of it is we sell t-shirts, but we also do monthly shows that we help produce, and then we also host the city's largest game of tag, which is called Journey to the End of the Night. Our newest show is called A Month Of, and it's all task-based, and we have an ensemble of 5 people who go out and do tasks that the audience choose every month. And then anyone in the audience who goes and does the task gets into the show for free. The sample task that we give is have lunch with a stranger, and we got all sorts of great different things with that. We had one guy who was rejected 16 times. We had somebody who met a boxer and took her to boxing lessons, and so that was her first time in a boxing ring. We had another guy who sat next to this girl and chickened out, and he wrote a short story about how wonderful his life would have been had he actually talked to this girl. And sort of all these different things, and somebody had lunch with a homeless guy and talked to him. And sort of, it's all about promoting, doing stories out in the public, and then bringing it in and sort of talking about it and having a place to share those experiences. Yeah. So the best way to get a hold of us is through Here'sTheStory.org. That's our website. We post everything that we're doing. We have news articles about the storytelling community there, and we've got the storytelling calendar, which shows all the shows in that you'd ever want to see that involve storytelling in Chicago. And you can always contact me. I'm Dan at Here'sTheStory.org. Thanks.
Ça me ferait du bien de te revoir, de retrouver nos jeux interdits. Ça me ferait du bien de te revoir, de me retrouver seul avec toi. Ça me ferait du bien de te revoir, de retrouver nos jeux interdits. Ça me ferait du bien de te revoir, de me retrouver seul avec toi.
Hi, my name is Christian A. Larson. I'm the author of Losing Touch with a foreword by Piers Anthony. It's a novel about a suburban dad who's kind of reached the end of his rope financially, emotionally. His life is sort of falling apart on him. And in the process of his discovering that, his body starts to fall apart on him. He starts to be able to phase through matter. And it's about learning. He learns how to cope with that ability or disability, depending on how you see it. And then he starts to use it for gain, let's say, and whether he finds gain or loss is really up to the reader to decide. But it's ultimately about a person who's trying to find a foothold in the world, and whether or not he finds it. Really, the inspiration behind writing Losing Touch was really my own personal experience. When the economy collapsed in 2008, I lost my job. I went into a new profession that didn't suit me, and then I ended up leaving that profession. And the same sorts of things that he's facing was something that I was facing and faces a lot of people that challenges them today. You can find the book at Amazon.com, or you can also visit postmortem-press.com. exlibrislarson.com, or you can find out more information at exlibrislarson.com. exlibrislarsen.com.
Santa Muerte involves the Mexican drug cartels, and I like to categorize it as a young adult horror novel. And it takes place here in Chicago, and it has a connection between the drug cartels and Mexico and the street gangs in the city of Chicago. And there's a supernatural element all throughout the novel, where in the novel we have our protagonist who is trying to understand why it is that these strange people are stalking her. And all of a sudden, one day, her father shows up on her doorstep, and her father is the chief federal investigator of the drug cartels in Mexico. So the entire novel follows our young protagonist to try to understand why her father is mysteriously here, who these people are that are chasing after her, and why she's having these very dark visions and terrible nightmares. So the idea of the novel came about just because my own personal interest in Latin America and the increase in drug crime and then the increase in kidnappings in Mexico. And then in my research, I found that there is a saint called Santa Muerte, which translates to Saint Death. And so between that information and just living here in Chicago and seeing the increase in street crimes, I kind of put together a story about drug cartels mixing with street crime, with inner city street gangs, and just a young girl who's really interested in trying to understand why these terrible things are happening in her community in Chicago and in her community in Mexico as well.
In today's fast-paced business environment, people want to know as quickly as possible what your website is about and how you can help them solve their problems. A fast show and tell will keep visitors on your site longer and help them better understand your product or service. What keeps many small and mid-sized companies from including video is fear of production. You may not be sure what to say. Do I need to be on camera? Do we need to hire a production company? Well, the answer is not necessarily. There are unlimited ways to tell a story. Reno Lovison Marketing specializes in non-video video production. We use voiceover, music, photos, motion graphics, and screenshots to give your web visitors a quick tour of your site. Our goal is to take about a minute to assure your visitors that they're in the right place, let them know what you do, and give them some quick hints on how to navigate your site so they can easily find the information they seek. No need to have a talking head. No need for a full day of on-site video production. Just a simple phone conference and a review of your website is usually all we need. Don't put it off any longer. Email us today and we'll show you how to get started with a quick, economical video that will help convert visitors into customers.
About 250 miles north of Chicago, Door County is Wisconsin's premier vacation destination, offering visitors of all ages outdoor fun combined with great food, performing arts, shopping, and of course, natural beauty. DoorCountyNavigator.com will help you find the perfect place to stay, play, and dine, providing all the resources you'll need to plan your trip. Be in the know before you go. To learn more about Door County, tune into A Peek Inside the Door, seen weekly on Chicago Cable, Channel 25.